Hey there, welcome back to another educational and informational video with myself, Jessica Benge, and my friend David Moyer. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about insurances, right? So you're hearing word on the street, property insurance prices are higher than they ever have been, largely due to record inflation, rising rebuilding costs, increased severe weather events. And, when you switch insurances, it can be difficult. But David, go into property insurance and how that plays a part in this whole homeownership game.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I've seen this, one of the things, I talk about is I like to look at what the insurance rates are doing every time we go to a closing. What are the rates doing on these houses and how have they changed? And because it's also kind of fun for me, not fun, but it helps me compare, how are my rates compared to what my clients are getting as they move into their new properties. It's a nice way for me to keep an eye on what my rates are doing. But what we're seeing is that, with all these storms, even the ones that have not affected the Midwest region, all of the increased hurricane seasons, the earlier hurricane seasons, all of the catastrophes happening in like Florida. Remember several years ago, I believe it was in Miami where that condo all of a sudden lost its footing and collapsed. And that was catastrophic. And the insurance was not enough to actually sustain rebuilding of that. And, there was massive lawsuits, which I'm pretty sure are still ongoing. That caused ripple effects through the insurance industry in terms of liability coverage and everything like that, that first of all, condo associations had to have. And then it also caused these insurance companies to reopen their books and go, wow, maybe we need to look at what our residential customers also have. And then you look at, speaking of storm seasons, we live here in Dayton, northern Cincinnati, especially here in the Dayton area. And when I talk about Xenia here in Dayton, and when you talk about Xenia, everybody knows that Xenia is infamous for 1978, the great tornado of 1978, Tornado Alley. My clients say that all the time they move here. So we have storms all the time. We had tornado warnings last night. You and I were talking about, I'm very tired right now because from 12 to 12:30 last night, there was a tornado siren and me and the Schnauzer were in the basement. So it's just part of living here in Ohio. So, but in 2012, we had a rash of large hail storm, tornadoes, and windstorms. And I would probably say at least 75 to 85% of the roofs and a greater part of the Dayton area were replaced and by insurance. And so you do the math, and that is about 14 to 15 years now. Those roofs were replaced with 30-year dimensional shingles. And you think, well, David, that's only half of 30 years. Well, a 30-year dimensional shingle in Ohio actually has a life expectancy of about 20 years, 22 years, because we have extreme heat, extreme cold. And when you start to get close to 20 years, aka 15 years, the insurance companies go, this is already an old roof, an older roof. So they no longer will insure the roof in terms of, hey, if something happens, we're going to replace it just for your deductible. They're going to do what they call depreciation. They're going to devalue the roof. So now you're getting a decent policy, but if that storm rolls through and destroys your roof, now instead of getting a replacement for, $18,000 to $20,000 for that roof, they're saying, well, you got 3/4 of the life already off of that roof, so we're going to cut you a check for $6,000. The rest
And you
is
have
on
to
you.
pay the rest to get your roof
You got
replaced,
to pay the
right?
rest. Yeah.
Mhm.
Unless you want to get the better coverage, which is going to cost you a lot more per year. So that's what a lot of people are up against right now. Likewise, because of that as well, there are your older homes here in Ohio. So we have our historical homes that have, tile roofs on them or slate roofs, which are very, very common. Honestly, in my opinion, some of the best roofs around. I mean, that's a natural solid rock roof. The insurance companies have kind of turned an eye to those. They don't like them. And a lot of companies will actually deny coverage for those. And
Wow.
then you even look at electric panels. If you're buying an historical property, there's a good chance that even if the seller says we've updated all the electric, there's a good chance if you have a good inspector or a good electrician go through every part of that house, there's going to be some form of what we call knob and tube wiring or aluminum wiring in that house. And that's the
Mhm.
type of wiring that was used in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and earlier. It's great wiring, actually, as long as it hasn't been spliced with new wiring or concealed underneath new installation. And if the insurance companies see that you're buying a historical home and they want to come in there, they want to see, is there any knob and tube wiring? And if they find it, they can say, we're not going to insure the house
Is
until
it
you replace
dangerous?
this.
Knob and tube wiring? Is it?
Not necessarily. No one's going to say 100% it's not dangerous, but if it is completely exposed without insulation on top of it and it's not connected to new wiring. So let's say you walk into a home and it's 100% knob and tube wiring. It's all original. First of all, you're not going to be running a hair dryer and doing the dishes and drying your clothes at the same time. I can tell you that. But if you have that,
Won't work for me.
yeah, it won't work for you, but it's going to be great. So, but the insurance company's not going to want to see it. So, it becomes very, very, very difficult. There are certain policies out there you can get, but once again, you're going to pay a lot of money for that kind of
Does the
stuff.
insurance company come inside the home and check this out, or how would they find
Sometimes.
out? Oh, okay.
For homes like that, they will. If you're buying a home that was built, let's say after 1950 or even 1970,
Hmm.
a brick ranch, or they will typically do a drive-by, maybe walk around the premises or something like that, or maybe even just look at a satellite image. But if it is an older home in a historical neighborhood, yeah, absolutely. Sometimes they will actually request to go inside the property. And as of late, I've actually heard of insurance companies, and you don't have to do this, but the insurance companies have been requesting of their clients a copy of the full inspection report.
What?
So because that's how they're trying to either deny the policy, increase the policy, justify their rates or something like that. You don't have to provide it to them. If your insurance company is asking for a full copy of that report, that's your report that you purchased for the home. That's your property. You don't have to provide that to them. And if they say they're not providing you a policy because you're not showing them a copy of that report, then that's not the insurance company for you, right? That's not the company you want to work with. So that's a red flag right there. That's move on to somebody else that actually wants to work with you and protect you. Because if they're doing that, they're only protecting themselves. They're not protecting you. So yeah, I mean that's some of the things that you kind of look out for. Oh, and then talking about electric too. We also talked about this before we came on camera here. There's something here in Ohio called across the country Federal Pacific panels. My clients will know this. I look for this when I walk a client through a property, any property built prior to 1985, because these were panels installed in homes prior to the 80s. They were recalled in the 80s because it's stab lock technology. It's an electric panel. They had faulty wiring where it would trip, and the wires, the stab lock technology actually wouldn't trip all the way. So it just kept going. And because it would keep going, it'd go really fast, catch fire. Next thing you know, house catches fire. So they were recalled. Well, company's out of business. You can't go after them anymore. Inspectors have to tell you should have this replaced. Caveat is that was in the 80s. If that panel is still there, there's probably a good chance the panel's okay. Not all of them were bad, right? But I do tell my clients, even if the seller doesn't replace it or the insurance company is okay with it and you're okay with it, maybe save your pennies and replace it at some point in time. It costs around $1,500, give or take. And it will save you the headache when you go to sell your house down the road.
Yeah. So we also talked about when you get into your home that the rate is an aggressive rate. And sometimes that rate can change and go up similar to taxes. And that does affect your payment. It's not as much of an effect as the taxes are, but once you're going with the mortgage and trying to switch your insurance, it's not easy to do, right?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, first of all, know when your escrow is kind of paid or when your insurance is being paid. That's probably the first advice I would give you. If you close on your home in March of this year, then your insurance is being paid March of every single year. So if you're thinking about, well, I want to see what my policy premium is going to be, I'm thinking about renewing my policy. I promise you, doing it in March is going to save you a lot of headache.
Yeah.
Because what happens is when you go to change it out, in July, you're going to have to out of pocket pay a lot of money to pay that entire premium. And then you're going to have to make the request to the escrow company to refund you the difference. And then you're going to have to get in contact with the escrow company to prove that this was paid. And then you're going to have to get that refund. It really is it's a headache. And making sure that everything is in place, and it's a lot of work, so make sure it's worth it. But yeah, your premiums are going to go up every year. It's guaranteed. And unless they're going up significantly and it's just not justified, it's not really worth the trouble of going through all those changes. Always, and I think you talk to your clients about this just as much as I do, combine that with something with all your other insurance as well. That will save you money.
Bundling. Yes, it's called bundling, right?
Always bundle. If you think, well, my premiums are high on my home, there's a good chance that and I know my premiums on my property have gone up, but when I look at my car insurance, because it's bundled, I'm like, this is well worth it. This is pennies on the dollar for my car insurance.
Well, I mean, you are an impeccable driver.
Yeah, I am a good driver. But it's pennies on the dollar, so it's kind of like, robbing Peter to pay Paul. So you want to combine those together. There are benefits to that. So, that's one way to save. But, just be aware of those things when you're going out and shopping for a house. If you're looking for a property and it's an older roof and you're in a multiple offer situation and you're maybe giving up certain things, like I said, I never let my clients waive an inspection, but sometimes we'll say, this is how we're going to handle our inspections, but we're still going to do them. And that you may not have, all the liberty in the world to request certain things. And you're concerned, is my insurance company going to have an issue with this? Get on top of it. There's a clause in our contract that says you have this amount of time to ensure that you can get insurance on the property. And if you can't, you have an out. So use that clause. Don't just let it go to waste if you're concerned.
Yeah. Well, as usual, you always do impress me with your knowledge. I mean, I have some knowledge, but you've been in real estate a lot longer than I've been doing this. So I do always learn a little bit when we do these videos. If you have any questions about insurance, which is a hot topic these days, please reach out to David or myself. We're happy to go into it with them.
And I'll say, to your credit too, one of the nice things you do is you make it really easy for people to get an idea of what their insurance costs are going to be. Because I think that even a lot of your first-time home buyers, even your second-time, they don't think about that up front. They don't think about that cost, especially if they're moving up. So I think it's great that you always kind of say, when they say, how much is my monthly payment going to be on this house at 123 Main Street? And you give them an example. You're not just telling them this is your principal, interest, and your taxes. You're also including, here's an example of what your insurance is probably going to be based off of these rates and what we're seeing and everything. So, that's also extremely beneficial. I don't think a lot of lenders actually do that. There's no surprises at the end of the day, which I think is great. People should know that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You're correct. You go to other lenders and they tell you your payment and it's so much less than Benge Mortgage. Well, that's because I'm actually telling you everything that you're going to run.
No surprises. Yeah.
So thanks again. And until next time.
I'll see you later.